What's going on, Omnibuddies? Mitch here, and today we are back with one of my absolute favorite segments that I do on a yearly basis. We are looking at my top 10 reads of 2024. All right, so first things first, this is, as of the filming of this video, my top 10 list of books that I have read during 2024. It doesn't mean that all these books have come out in 2024 necessarily, even though a bunch of them have. Not all of them have. It's just books that I have gotten around to finally reading or picked up and read during 2024. Now, as of the making of this video, I also say, because even while I'm filming this right now, it's still like buzzing around in my head of which order I want to put these books in. And I'm like, I really want that book to be in here too, but I only have 10. Should my number 9 be swapped with 10? And should 10 be swapped with 11? Or, like, it's going to change. And I know as soon as I post this video, someone's going to be like, I cannot believe you did not put this book in your top 10. And I'm going to go, I forgot about it. But as of now, I went through my Goodreads for my 2024 goals, and I picked mostly out of there. And there are some books in there, but they're not actually technically out yet in 2024. I may have read them in 2024, but I want to wait until they're out. So they might be in my 2025, but I read them in 2024 because with some of the work I do on the side, I get to read some books early. And there were some really great ones this year. So be looking forward to those. Anyways, let's dive into it. Let's get into it. Let's look at my number 10 book. We are looking at one of my favorite genres now. We are looking at the post-apocalyptic world, and we are looking at a very kids-friendly, young reader-friendly, adult-friendly. It's really got everything with adventure and heart and family and great art, great storytelling, and really intriguing world building. We are looking at Royd and Lep's Rust series. Now, I have just volume 1 here. Volume 2, 3, and 4, which make up the entire thing, are phenomenal. And the whole story is phenomenal, and they're really cheap. I mean, MSRP is only $25 a book, so obviously you can probably get that cheaper in a lot of other places. But man, the quality of these binds with this like not felt, but the fabric covers and the linen cover, that's what I'm looking for, the word I'm looking for. And then that foil embossing with the picture, with the graphic on the front. Man, this is such a great book of, post World War III. The world's kind of trying to regain itself, and robots were used, and the whole world's just kind of settling again post-war, and it's very apocalyptic. And it follows this family of this young boy who's trying to keep his farm afloat with his younger brother and family. And his younger brother's always getting into trouble and causing problems and being a young kid, and then he's a young man himself who's also trying to just figure out life. And the whole a big part of the story is told to through his letters that he's writing his dad, who went away to war, and now he's missing and doesn't know where he's at. And they're hoping to find their father, and then what happens, but this jetpacker guy crashes on their farm, and chaos ensues and government hunts ensue. It's kind of got that E.T. Post-apocalyptic vibe going on, actually, which is super interesting mashup. But Lep's storytelling and his art in here is phenomenal. I love his illustrations, how it's actually, you don't see this super often in graphic novels, but he's got a lot of like depth of field where, something way up front is in focus and everything's out of focus. I mean, you can kind of see a little bit right now, like if I get real close to the camera, as an example, now everything back there is out of focus, and I'm in focus, and that, so it's got that really cool depth of field going on in here, and the art's super cool. And it's very similar with Blue Book in that it's kind of a tritone book, black and white with those very heavy brownish yellow, sepia tones going on. And, you'd think you'd get bored of these like tritone, single color use books, but man, they pack a punch. I remember I picked up this book at my LCS, and it's a quick read, but I stood there and I read, I believe, over half of this book while I was just standing there in my store. I'm like, okay, I got to pick up this one and grab the other ones from online that they were missing, because I think they only had like volumes 1 and 2, so I had to get like 2 and 4 or 3 and 4 offline or something like that. But man, these were super fun. They're not the easiest books to find, but they're not super expensive either, so you can go grab those. All right, let's jump into a book that I have been wanting to read for a very long time. And this is, again, part of a series. So both of them are great, and there's actually more coming out. But I have been wanting these books for a while, and I finally picked them up. And then it took me a little while to actually get to the books. But once I did, man, what a ride. So what I'm talking about Scotty Young's I Hate Fairyland. So this is volume 1. Volume 2's Bananas. I should have grabbed that one because this is my favorite, like that bright lime green color. If you've looked at any graphics on my channel, I like that, love that lime green look, and that whole book is just neon. But wow, I loved this story. It's that whole kind of going to the land of Oz kind of feel, where all these, kids, they want to go to a land of sugar plums and candy canes, and where everyone's happy and fun, and they get to go on a big adventure with wizards and magic and all that. But what happens when the lead character is dragged into that fairy tale land, that fairyland, kicking and screaming, not wanting to go, and wanting to do everything they can possibly do to get the heck out of there, because it makes them want to vomit how like lovey-dovey everything is. It's so funny. It's such a good play on turning that trope on its head. And Scotty Young's art is absolutely incredible. I mean, he kills it in everything he does. If you follow his like Instagram channel, and he's doing his like daily warm-up drawings, he's got such a cool, very interesting and unique style. And his color in these books, is just like a rainbow vomited. And I love, for all the talk I do about like loving black and white books, if a book has color, I love when it is just like ultra vibrant, gonna vomit, like RGB. I love RGB lighting. So I love when my books are just, just that neon crazy coloring, and these books have that in spades. And I tore through these, and I was like, okay, how can Young keep this book going for this long? And somehow he pulls it off. There's adventure, there's fun, there's really genuinely funny moments with the characters in here and the people they run into, and turning those tropes on their heads, like I was saying before. Really great stuff. And I know Scotty Young's got more to these stories coming out. I think he's got a couple new issues out as of now, actually. So I'll wait for that new collected edition to drop. So maybe there'll be a volume 3 here in 2025 or 2026. Who knows? But man, if you're looking for a really fun, I would not recommend this for younger kids, maybe, 15, 16 and up or something. Really great, really fun read, and really great way of mixing things up from, always being like a heavier story or something to something like just crazy off the wall and just crazy wonky, and everything's crazy. It's super fun. All right, speaking of super fun and crazy, we're going to go to super not fun and very crazy also. This book was sent to me to check out, and I had no previous idea of what I was in for. But we are looking at Vasil Tukov's and Ed Matinian's It Remains. And this is Act 1, so hopefully there's more. I don't know what they're going to do with another act or 2 or whatever, but this is one of the strangest books I have read probably ever, actually. It for the first half of this book, I didn't know really what I was reading, and I couldn't figure out why I was really reading it, but it kept kind of pulling at me a little bit. And so I was like, okay, I'll read a few more pages. Okay, I'll read a few more pages. And then about halfway through, stuff started clicking, and it was the like just like the word that comes to mind with this book is like melancholy. And the reason why is because it's very post-apocalyptic. It's very sad, lonely, isolating, when there's just like very few people left in the world, and all that's left is just basically to keep moving, because if you don't keep moving, you're gonna die. And it is the tale of a father and a son, and their struggle and what they go through as they are just trying to survive, and meeting different individuals who, what's the point of trying to survive in this wasteland anymore, because there's really nothing besides just your next breath. It's sad, it's very melancholy, and it draws you in, and it's got a very good environmental message to it. It's not like beating you over the head with it. A lot of it's reading some of the stuff online and in the back of the book and stuff. Is a lot of it's like dealing with like microplastics and what we're doing to the world, but really it's not beating you over the head with any of that kind of stuff. But it's there, but it's not like very heavy-handed. It's just a very like rough book when you're just reading the sad existence of these people. And on top of that, one of the more interesting books that I've read in a very long time is that it even says it there, an immersive graphic novel. And this is basically, you can download a phone app and it will do AR, augmented reality, for nearly like every page in the cover, and it will bring up augmented things from the book and within the book, and you can explore and unlock things. When I was first reading it, I should actually pull up my phone and try this again, because they were still unlocking things. There wasn't very much to explore when I first got this book months ago, but I know that they've been doing a lot of work on it. It's super cool. It's super interesting. It's not a very expensive book. It's by Yellowmouth Studios, and they are doing some crazy cool stuff with it. So definitely check it out. And hopefully I can hook up with Vasil and do some interviews, but he's way across the pond, and big time zone differences. So it's hard to meet up with people that are way different time zones than me. But all right, speaking of weird, strange worlds, this one is a little bit happier. It's a bigger adventure, definitely more kid-friendly. I fell in love with this book. My oldest daughter, who's 10, fell in love with this book. We're looking at Canto. This is volume 1. There's 4 volumes to it currently. I think the 5th volume will be coming out in 2025. And that will conclude the whole series. I mean, I guess unless they come back, which I would not mind, because I love this world. It's all about the Clockwork Knights, and they are tiny people that go on big adventures, and they are brave, and they are good friends and family, and they are fighting evil in the world and trying to help. And so it's just so hopeful. And there's always that undertone of danger, and friends do die and things do happen. That's like life happens. But there are really, really great stories in here. And David Boer and Drew Zucker, Zucker's art is absolutely breathtaking. The detail work, his line work, the color by Vittorio Astone, and lettering by And World Design. Man, it all complements Boer's writing on this. And if you're more interested in it, I did do an interview with Boer and Zucker, so you can go check that out on my channel too. But man, this series is so fun, and the Dark Horse bind that they did of it is wonderful, and they're very uniform. So if you're big into spine design and nice looking books, These books are absolutely fantastic. Love the story. It moves along so fast, but it definitely takes its time where it needs to and lets it have those cool beats. And rarely do they ever just stray into like unnecessary kind of side quests. They do some side quests in here, but it's purposeful. So very fun book. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 6, I guess. 5. Anyways, all right. So now we're going to, you can see a theme here. And admittedly, I am a lover of the post-apocalyptic genre. This one is a little bit more based in, I guess, kind of reality, with not clockwork knights, and like other mythical creatures. This is Geiger by Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. And wow, I did not know anything about this book when I went into it. And it's a huge book, huge like library edition sized image comic. And the bind is great. The artwork is, again, fantastic. I love the story. It was interesting in that like it took that post-apocalyptic, most of these books that I'm always talking about that are post-apocalyptic do something different with the trope, and this definitely does. And being a father myself, reading books and movies and all that kind of stuff that have a father figure in them struggling to try and protect his family really hits home for me, and really definitely pulls me in a lot more and gets me more engrossed in the book and more invested. And this has that father figure, and it has kids in it that are struggling and trying to survive in this world. And it is a really, really interesting tale, and who the radioactive man Geiger is and how he came to be and what his purpose is. Incredible book, super cool. And I did not know this, but Ghost Machine has a whole universe that they're building and doing. And one of the characters that they're fighting here is Junkyard Joe. And he has his book. It just came out a couple weeks ago as of the filming of this video, and I just got it, and I cannot wait to read that, because I was reading this and I was like, oh, that's a super cool character in there that appears. And now I get to read way more about Junkyard Joe, and get that expanded universe. But what's cool is like you can just read this book and not have to invest in any other parts of the Ghost Machine universe, but you're going to want to, but you don't have to, which is super nice. It's a very good introduction to it all. All right, now we're going away from the post-apocalyptic world. Actually, we're going into a bit of a Eden, a Garden of Eden, because this book is exploring what happens when there's no longer going to be death needed. And this is The Many Deaths of Layla Starr. And it is by Ram V and Felipe Andrade, something like that. Sorry, I'm terrible at names. But this book is what happens when someone creates the secret to eternal life, where they've overcome death. And so death is going to, because all the gods know the main gods know what's going to happen. They know that the person who creates this, the cure to death, has been born. And so they no longer need death anymore. So the gods, in a very corporate way, with a corporate power and offices, let Layla Starr know that she is no longer needed in her position of being the god of death. And so she goes down to earth and lives many lives and dies many times and experiences life in a whole new way, from a more human mortal perspective, as the person who is going to invent this cure to death is growing up, and she experiences what life truly can be and what death truly can be. And wow, it's a really cool, really interesting story, and makes a lot of different plays off of a lot of different ideas, but it's very different from anything else I've ever read. Super cool book, and the art is, again, I mean, it's just, all these books have just outstanding art And I love it. I love this book so much. It stuck with me for a very, very long time after reading it. And now I'm talking about it right now. I really want to read it again. So, yeah, it's a great book and a really uh, good size book. It's not like a tiny premiere hardcover or anything like that. I mean, you're looking at like a library edition size. It's pretty close to LE size. So this is by Boom. So yeah. All right. Now we are getting into the top 4 books. So the next book in this list is something I had really no experience in. Like I don't know much about H.P. Lovecraft. I know, the general ideas of Cthulhu and all these, those kinds of things. And, but I don't know much of the stories or any of those types of things. But you can read this book not knowing any of it, and it's a perfect introduction. What I'm talking about H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness. This is the Dark Horse Deluxe Edition manga adaptation by Gao Tanabe. And wow, like this is a beautiful book inside and out. The storytelling is like way above what I was expecting. The art is just beautiful. Every single page just has crazy cool art. The emotions are conveyed super well. There are pages on here I had to stop and I just had to kind of study because there's so much going on. Some people might consider this like a bad thing, but there was so much going on some of these pages that I couldn't tell. Like when I first opened it, and it was like a big 2-page spread. There's a ton of 2-page spreads in here. I couldn't really tell what was going on, and I had to study the page and like figure out what I was actually seeing. And it just all these like grotesque monsters or like crazy architecture or landscapes. Absolutely wonderful book. Not fun for the characters because crazy stuff happens, but really good book and a very, very good introduction to H.P. Lovecraft. I'm sure if you know a ton about H.P. Lovecraft, you'll get even more out of this book. But if you don't know much or anything about Lovecraft, this is a great introduction to it, and you're not going to be lost in not knowing any of the lore or anything like that. It's very if you're looking for an idea of what you're in for, if you know the movie The Thing, or Thing, whatever it's called, where they go to that like Antarctica and the monsters chasing them in the snow and all that. Very similar kind of vein with this, only Lovecraft. So really cool book, really good read, very quick too. I mean, it's manga, so you're going to be reading it from right to left rather than normal Western left to right. But it's very quick because a lot of the pages have little to no text on them. It's all conveyed through the art, which is super cool. But wow, Gao did an amazing job adapting this book into the manga format, graphic novel format. He wrote it and drew it, illustrated it, and phenomenal. And I gotta say, I love this black and silver look to this thing. I mean, you can see this is actually some of the art from inside the pages. And actually here, let's just take a quick shot. I mean, you've probably seen a bunch of the art already, but I mean, you can kind of see it. You're like, whoa, what's going on? And then you just start looking closer at the art. Wow, so good. Definitely a great book to pick up. Really fun. If you haven't read much manga before or any manga, this is a great introduction to that and a great introduction to Lovecraft. Okay, so now we are in the top 3. And really, I think I have it in the correct order. I've been thinking about it, and I really do think I have these in the correct order of what I want them in for my top 3. But that, like I said, it could all change. And so, what was it, like 6 months ago or something like that, when the creator, artist, storyteller Ed Piskor passed away. Tragic circumstances all around. Terrible situation. But with that, I started watching some of his, the Comics Kayfabe channel, and looking at some of their stuff. And I was like, man, these guys know comics. And I need to read, everyone knows, everyone talks up, most everyone talks up high praise of his stuff. And I'm like, I need to go read some Pisker, because that is a definite big hole in my graphic novel reading. And so I picked up a couple of his books, and the first one I picked up was one of his first graphic novels, actually, and I loved this book. And when my brother came from Denmark earlier this year and was visiting, I handed him this book. I'm like, you got to check this one out. It is phenomenal. This is WYSIWYG. This is the portrait of a serial hacker. And this blew me away. I love when it can talk about actual historical events and how, and kind of document how hacking came to be, from like what was called phone phreaking, where they could whistle or hum or make beeps and noises to trick like payphones into giving them free long distance calls. Just crazy, weird hacking skills that I would never think of in a million years. And then people like Boing Thump, this hacker, who it just follows his whole life, from a young kid to, when he becomes the legendary hacker that he is, and what all he goes through in his personal life, the politics, the law, just all of it, and what he goes through for it. And it's very much in the vein of like Catch Me If You Can, only with like a hacker. And man, this book was super cool. Pisker's art style is very unique. So, I mean, if you look at most any of his things, you're going to see he has a very unique art style. And this book was super cool. So if you're looking for a great introduction to Pisker, this is a great book, great place to start. It's a relatively quick read, and really interesting, pretty fun, and definitely engrossing. So I know it's not it's out of print. It's not super easy to find, but it's not crazy expensive right now. At least, a month or two ago, last I looked, it wasn't crazy expensive. You're probably going to be looking like 50 or under maybe ish. Depends on when you're watching. This could have gone up since then, but hopefully Top Shelf reprints this and gets it back out there, because more people definitely need to be reading this book. Super interesting, super fun book. Okay, so next two books. I gotta say, I gotta preface it, I do work on some work on the side with Magnetic Press, but I would not be talking about these books if on my private channel if I didn't actually think this and believe this. And what's really cool is this book I'm about to talk about, I got to work on and help with and give input into the design. And since Magnetic's inception 10 years ago, a decade ago, they have been nominated for an Eisner Award every year, but have never won an Eisner Award until it's actually two books, but I'm just talking about one of them. This slipcase edition was nominated and won the first Magnetic Press Eisner Award this year. So I'm pretty proud that I got to be involved in it. This is the George Bess Frankenstein and Dracula slipcase edition, which the Dracula and the slipcase are right over there. So that whole presentation is what won. But this book is the one I'm talking about. It is my number 2 book of 2024. And I think it was like the first book I read in 2024, which is, it wasn't all downhill from there. But like, I was like, okay, this is a great way to start my year. And Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is the book, and it's adapted and illustrated by George Bess. This, I have never read, and I'm not like a big Frankenstein, like lover of Frankenstein and, follow the story and read all the different books of it. Like, I've never really been into Dracula or Frankenstein. I'll watch the movies. I've watched a couple Frankenstein movies, and so I know the basic lore and all that kind of stuff. But the storytelling and the following of the creation of the monster, Frankenstein's monster, because it's Dr. Frankenstein. Pretty much everyone knows that at this point. So the monster is in Frankenstein. It's Dr. Frankenstein creates the monster. And so, you follow it from the creation of the monster to the monster, getting out and experiencing the world and experiencing life and meeting people and meeting the environment and learning to live and become a person, or an independent being, and the things that the monster goes through as it becomes more self-aware and has to learn and understand and adapt to the environment around it. So not just like the physical environment, but also the people and the social context. Really interesting, really digs in deep philosophically, and really great story. This one stuck with me for a very long time. I still love thinking about this book and going back to it. And I gotta say, the art in this book is just gorgeous. I fell in love with this art. And again, it's all black and white, but man, if black and white art turns you off to a book and you cannot read it, if it's black and white, you gotta give some of these books a try, because they're so good, and you're missing out on some of the best storytelling out there if you're not reading black and white books just because they're black and white. But the art in here is just incredible. Bess's use of like negative space, where even the whole page, like a lot of the time negative space for an artist will be all white and then just like a little bit of like art kind of in the middle, and they use like everything else. But a lot of times Bess kind of flips that, and the whole page is like just black and then just tiny bits of like white lines in there. And it's incredible. Gorgeous art, phenomenal storytelling. I mean, Mary Shelley, all props to her for her story. And then Bess for his adaptation of it. If you've read the whole original book, you might be upset that some things are missing, but it's a graphic novel. You can't necessarily include it all. All right, I'll stop talking about that one. Now let's jump into my top book of 2024. I love this book. I love sci-fi. I love space. I love really cool, interesting stories that talk about politics and business and what it does to people, and what it could do to the world and the universe. And that is what Sengelin's Frontier does. This book is absolutely fantastic. Not only is this one of the coolest slipcovers and all that, I love the slipcover. This is the limited edition. So but even so, like Magnetics trade paperbacks, they have that rounded corner, and they are some of the best quality trade paperbacks out there. Phenomenal quality, like very premium quality. But if you can get your hands on the hardcover, definitely do it. Especially the limited edition has that gilding on there. Actually, I think both of these books had silver gilding on them. But Frontier, oh man. So this is kind of the story of the space race by corporations for like materials for getting to planets so that they have enough resources. So it's like a resource race for corporations, so that they can just mine and build things and make more money. And so what this does is it follows 3 different characters who are tied up or tied to these different corporations and different government agencies, and what it does to them being involved in this resource race from their different areas and perspectives. So you got your scientists, you've got like a miner, and so you got all these different perspectives going on, and the book starts telling their stories individually, and gradually those stories come together, and then their story becomes kind of one, and the trajectory changes, and then things happen. And I don't want to go into, I hate spoiling books. I love just giving kind of an overall feel and a general idea of the story that you're getting, because I really hate being spoiled on stories. So this book was awesome. It's super cool. It's got a lot of great like thoughts baked into it. And then the art, just to top it off, is like, all I can say is it's really, really good. It is so detailed. Like you can just, like I was saying before with the Mountains of Madness, where you can just stop on a page and you just got to take it all in. This isn't like Mountains of Madness in that you kind of got to let your brain like figure out what's going on. This is, you're just looking at all the different details that are illustrated in these spaceships, on these planets, in these rooms, on these characters. It is some of the best, most detailed, coolest space illustrations I've come across in a very long time. And what's interesting is like it's a very heavy hitting, cool story. There's like very light moments, but there's also very, very heavy moments too. But it's all illustrated in this chibi style, which is very cutesy. And so you're reading these like super heavy things going on, and then you got these cute characters delivering these like impactful lines, and it's a weird juxtaposition, having this cute and heavy at the same time. And I don't know how Sengelin does it, but he makes it work, and it works really well. And it is definitely my top read of 2024. So if you can get the hardcover, the limited slipcase edition, if there's any left on Magnetic Press's website, definitely grab some of those. Or if you need to, just grab that trade paperback or the non-limited hardcover if that's available, and get this book. Absolutely love it. It's fantastic. It is not it's great for younger readers. So definitely like 13, probably 13 and up could read this and not have a big anything crazy going on. But definitely adults can get a ton out of this book too. It is such a good book. Oh man, all these books are so good, and I had so much fun with them. Well, some of them I did not have fun with, like It Remains. Did not have fun with that book, but it was a good book. And sometimes books are not fun, but they're good. Sometimes stuff is not fun to do, but it's good to do for you, and it's good to get your brain thinking about different things and thinking of different concepts, and get the wheels turning a little bit. So that's what these books are. I'm very surprised that this year I didn't have any of the big two in my list, like Marvel or DC. I know like Aquaman Andromeda and Wonder Woman Dead Earth. Like there's a bunch of books like that I read and I really loved. But at the end of the day, those did not make it in my top 10 list. So, and really that's kind of what my channel has become, is this channel that I like to focus on indie books that many may not have heard of these books at all, or they might have just kind of heard the name or know a little bit about it in passing. But I try and highlight books that not many people tend to talk about, or talk about enough, or that don't get enough love. That's what I like to do, is like find these hidden nuggets out there and go mining for them, like those nasty corporations and Frontier. But I do it myself, and then I try and give it to you guys, and give that love away, and get you finding some new, cool, interesting books to read. So that's my top 10 books of 2024. It was a good year. Speaking of good, if you want to follow along with my reading throughout the year, this is my second year I've done it, is using Goodreads. So if you want to find me on Goodreads, I set my goals there, and you can follow along at what I'm reading there. And you can, send me messages on there too. I'm happy to respond on there and follow along with you guys on there. But it's also really nice because then I had all of the books I had read this year all nicely categorized. and right there, and I could scroll through and see, oh yeah, I did read that this year. I thought I read that this year. Oh, I guess that was 2023. So that shouldn't be on my list because I didn't read it in 2024. So it's made it really easy the past 2 years to actually go back and see what I've read and how I felt about them. So if you want to follow me on Goodreads, definitely hit me up there. But don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notification, do all of those things. But the most important thing to do, and I say this every time, comment. Let me know in the comments what your top books of 2024 were, and maybe a little why in there, so that we can get a good little feel and a little teaser on why we should read those books too, so everyone in the comments can get even more good recommendations. You don't have to do your top 10, maybe do your top 3, or if you're in a rush, do your top book of 2024. Give us a little why in it, and let me know if any of these books are interesting to you, and if you might be picking up any of them because of this video. I'd love to know what you think of those books too. All right, this video has gone on way too long, and my voice is starting to hurt because I do not talk this much, and I try and keep my videos shorter, but they keep getting longer, and I need to get them shorter again. But you know what, 2025, maybe that'll be a good resolution for 2025. Anyways, all right, that's it. Take care. Stay cool.